The morning Olivia Grant fired Nathan Cole, she didn't even look up from her phone. He had been standing in the doorway of her corner office on the 32nd floor of the Meridian Group building for almost 4 minutes. His resume was in his hand, not because he'd brought it, but because her assistant had handed it back to him with a polished, apologetic smile and said, "Ms. Grant would like you to have this." Nathan looked down at the paper. 7 years in hospitality management. 3 letters of recommendation. A gap year listed as family caretaking. That gap year was the reason he was standing here. And that gap year apparently was the reason he was being asked to leave. "Mr. Cole," Olivia said without lifting her eyes, "we're restructuring the events division. The position's been eliminated. HR will walk you through the severance." She tapped her screen twice. Done. Dismissed. Nathan didn't argue. He had learned a long time ago that arguing with people who had already made up their minds was a waste of breath that his daughter needed him to save. He folded the resume once, tucked it into his jacket pocket, and walked out. His daughter, Missy, was 7 years old. She had her mother's eyes, wide amber, relentlessly curious, and Nathan's stubborn chin, which meant she never stopped asking questions until she got answers. She understood. She was also, according to 3 different teachers and 1 very candid school counselor, extraordinarily perceptive for her age. She notices everything, the counselor had told Nathan once. She reads a room the way most adults can't. Nathan picked Missy up from school that afternoon in the same second-hand Honda he'd been driving since before she was born. She climbed into the back seat, buckled herself in with the focused seriousness of a child who had been doing things herself since she was 4, and looked at the back of his head. "Did something bad happen today, Daddy?" He met her eyes in the rearview mirror. "Why do you ask?" "Because you're holding the steering wheel the same way you held my hand at Mama's funeral." Nathan didn't answer for a moment. The traffic light ahead cycled from green to yellow to red. He let out a breath. "I lost my job today, baby." Missy was quiet for exactly 3 seconds. Then she said, "Okay, we still have each other." She reached forward and touched the back of his shoulder, one small hand, and Nathan had to press his lips together, hard to keep himself from falling apart on the interstate. That had been 6 weeks ago. He found work quickly, not the kind he wanted, but the kind that paid. A contract position through a staffing agency, facility support at a corporate tower downtown, maintenance, cleaning, setup, and breakdown of conference rooms. He wore a gray uniform and carried a key card that gave him access to floors most people never thought about. He was invisible in the way service workers are, always invisible to people who have decided not to see them. The building he was assigned to was the Meridian Group. He found this out on his first day, when he looked up at the lobby directory and saw the name in clean silver letters. He stood there for a moment, his cart of supplies beside him, and almost laughed. Almost. He kept his head down, did his work, learned the rhythms of the building, which floors were loud in the mornings, which executive assistants were kind and which ones looked through him, where the vending machine on the 14th floor was perpetually out of everything except the lemon crackers nobody wanted. He was good at this work. He was good at most work. He had learned long ago that there was dignity in anything done with care, and he had passed that lesson on to Macy like a piece of family jewelry, something she could carry. He saw Olivia Grant on Tuesdays and Thursdays, usually between 9 and 10 in the morning, when she walked from the elevator to her office, with her head bent over her phone and a coffee in her other hand. She never looked at him. He didn't expect her to. The day everything changed was a Thursday in November, when the city was doing that thing it does in autumn, copper and gray, and cold in a way that felt personal. Nathan was in the lobby at 5:47 in the evening, wiping down the security desk while the building emptied out around him. He had stayed late to cover for a colleague whose mother had been hospitalized. The lobby was almost empty. The security guard was on a bathroom break. The revolving door had gone still. And then a little girl walked in from outside. She was maybe 6 or 7, wearing a purple parka that was unzipped despite the cold, and she was crying in the way children cry when they have been crying for a long time, not loudly, but steadily, like a leak they'd stopped bothering to fix. She walked straight to the center of the lobby, stopped, and looked around at the emptiness with an expression that broke something open in Nathan's chest. He crossed the lobby in 8 steps. "Hey," he said softly, crouching down to her level. "Hey, it's okay. I've got you. What's your name?" She looked at him with those eyes, wide, amber, relentlessly curious, and said, "Lily." Hi, Lily, I'm Nathan. Are you lost? She nodded. Okay, that's okay. You're safe right now, I promise. Can you tell me what happened? Her name was Lily Grant. She was 6 3/4, she informed him. And she had come to surprise her mom at work, but her mom's assistant wasn't at the desk and she had gone looking, and then she had gone outside to see if maybe her mom was in a car, and then she couldn't find the door she'd come out of. And the street was loud and she got scared. She had been outside for almost 20 minutes before she found her way back in through the revolving door. Nathan sat with her on the bench near the security desk, both of them under the warm light, while he called up to the 32nd floor on the house phone. His voice was calm. His hands were steady. He had been in real crisis before. Hospital waiting rooms and middle-of-the-night phone calls. And he knew how to move through fear without transmitting it. He talked to Lily while they waited. He asked about school, about her favorite color, purple. Obviously, she said, gesturing at her jacket like he was missing something fundamental. About whether she liked lemon crackers because he had a whole bag from the 14th floor and she was welcome to them. She laughed a little at the lemon crackers. He felt the laughter like something loosening in his own ribs. Olivia Grant came out of the elevator at a speed Nathan had never seen her move before. Her coat was half on, her phone was in her hand, and her face, the face that had looked through him every Tuesday and Thursday for 6 weeks, the face that had dismissed him without a glance, was completely undone, raw with something she had clearly never let anyone see in a boardroom. Lily? The word came out barely above a whisper. Mama! Lily slid off the bench and ran, and Olivia caught her. And for a long moment the CEO of the Meridian Group just held her daughter and shook. Nathan stood and stepped back, giving them space, and prepared to quietly return to his cart and the rest of his evening. That was the job. Find the child. Keep her safe. Step away. But Lily turned around. Mama? She said into Olivia's shoulder. Still holding on. Nathan stayed with me the whole time, and he talked to me so I wasn't scared anymore. She pulled back enough to look at her mother's face. And Mama, when you were coming down and I couldn't see you yet, he cried a little bit, just for a second. She touched her mother's cheek with one small hand. He cried too. The lobby went very still. Olivia looked up slowly over her daughter's head, and for the first time since Nathan Cole had walked into her building, either time she actually looked at him, not through him. Not past him, at him. She took in the gray uniform, the ID badge, the cart behind him. She realized. You work here, she said. It wasn't a question. Yes. A pause. Something moving behind her eyes that she was trying to keep controlled and couldn't quite manage. You're the one I... She stopped. Yes, he said again, quietly. Lily, who missed nothing, looked between them with those amber eyes. Do you two know each other? Neither of them answered for a moment. Not really, Nathan said finally. Not yet. Olivia stood, her daughter's hand in hers. She was composed again, almost. The CEO was back mostly, but something around her eyes hadn't fully recovered. And Nathan thought that was probably the most honest he'd ever seen her look. Mr. Cole. She said his name like she was tasting whether she remembered it correctly. I owe you more than I know how to say right now. You don't owe me anything. She's a great kid. He glanced down at Lily. Purple's a good color choice for what it's worth. Lily beamed. Olivia almost smiled. Can I? She hesitated, and he could see it cost her something, that hesitation. Would you be willing to speak with me? Properly, not. She looked at his uniform, and he saw the flinch she tried to hide. Not like this. Nathan looked at her for a long moment. He thought about the resume she'd handed back. He thought about Macy asking if something bad had happened because of the way he gripped a steering wheel. He thought about 7 years of work and a gap year and a paper, folded once and tucked into a jacket pocket. He thought about a little girl in a purple parka who had been outside alone in the November cold for 20 minutes, and the way her face had changed when she wasn't scared anymore. Yeah, he said. I think I would. 3 weeks later, Nathan Cole returned to the 32nd floor. Not in gray, in the navy jacket he'd bought for interviews, the one that still had a consignment shop receipt in the pocket. He sat across from Olivia Grant at the same conference table where, 7 weeks before, he'd been handed his resume back without a glance. She had done her homework. He could tell. She didn't look at him with guilt barely managed behind composure. She looked at him the way she looked at proposals she was taking seriously. Like she was seeing the numbers and also seeing past them. The position isn't the same one you interviewed for, she said. It's better. The events division was a bad fit anyway. What you did with Lily, the way you handled it, that's crisis management. That's people management. I've been looking for someone to lead our client experience team for 8 months. You fired me, Nathan said. Not with anger, just as a fact that deserved to be in the room. I know. She held his gaze. I looked at a gap year and made a decision in 30 seconds about someone I hadn't bothered to learn anything about. A pause. My husband left when Lily was 4 months old. I don't have anyone to point to who took care of her while I built this company. I did it myself. I know what it costs. She set down the folder in front of her. I should have known what your gap year meant. I should have asked. The room was quiet. My wife died, Nathan said, when Macy was 2. The gap year was... He stopped, then started again. It was the only year that mattered. Olivia looked at him for a long moment. Your daughter's name is Makey. Yeah. Lily talked about the lemon crackers for 3 days, she said, and the edge of something warm came into her voice. She wants to know if you're going to keep bringing them. Nathan looked down at the table and then back up. That depends on whether I still have access to the 14th floor. Olivia opened the folder, slid it across the table. He looked at the offer letter. Read it once. Then again, this is, he started. It's what the role is worth, she said simply. And what you're worth. He looked up at her. She was watching him with an expression he hadn't seen on her face before. Not the composed executive, not the undone mother in the lobby, but something in between, something that looked like a person. Trying to be honest after a long time of being only polished. Tell me about Macy, she said. And Nathan Cole, for the first time in a long time, felt like someone was genuinely asking. He set the offer letter down, and he talked. Outside, the November city went on in its copper and gray way, indifferent to the small and enormous thing that had just shifted on the 32nd floor. 2 single parents sitting across a conference table, held together by nothing more and nothing less than the word of a 6-year-old. Girl in a purple parka who had noticed, in the way that children notice everything, that a stranger had cried for her, and had thought that was worth saying out loud. If this story touched something deep inside, if you felt Nathan's silence in that lobby, if you felt Olivia's hands shaking when she held Lily, then you already know what these stories are made of. Real people, real weight, real moments. This channel has more stories just like this one. Before you leave, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. It takes you only 3 seconds. But for us it means everything. Stay until the end of the next story too. We promise you, it will be just like this one.